following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, this is Ken Gidge, and this is the Art of Politics. You know what the show is. I am the Democrat, which is the good part of this show, and my partner here, Bill O'Brien, well, he's good. He's good.
Ken, you have been agreeing with me so much
I know, lately,
that at this point, I noticed that you've come in and you're dressing like me. And
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay, because you know, first you agree with me, then you dress like me, and we're going to get you to come over to the other side here. It's a journey that you're taking.
Well, I may get shot first by both sides. But this is a half-hour show. As last week we did a half-hour show. And what was it like, Snowden?
Well, I mean,
where is he?
Yeah, I know. I mean, the last reports, he's in the transit center at this Moscow airport, trying to find out where literally his next step is. You know, where does he go from there? What do you
Putin's not happy.
No, well, I don't know.
I
don't know that Putin isn't happy. I think anytime Putin can take his finger and jam it in America's eye, he's just really quite happy.
Well,
so,
what he said though is he said he hasn't been allowed into Russia. In other words, he's supposedly at this little spot. I
tend to think that if Putin is saying that A is a fact, you might as well believe B. And probably the guy is not in the transit center. This is just utter speculation. But he's not in the transit center. He's sitting probably in Lubyanka prison in the middle of Moscow at this point, trying to explain what's on those 4 laptops.
Yeah, yes.
Under pains of, you know.
No offense, but I'm having a hard time believing that you couldn't get out of Russia without them confiscating something.
You know, the
Russian, what is he going to do? Complain?
Yeah. I know.
To who?
Yeah, he's not going to file rid of habeas corpus in the Ninth Circuit or something.
They can just go grab his computers and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that could have been a misstep by whoever was advising him as he began his journey out of Hong Kong.
You know who was advising him?
It was one of the WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
So Julian Assange.
The one who's in the other embassy.
Yeah, Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Right. He's been there a year.
Yeah, he could be there for a long time. Do you remember back when we were kids, there was a bishop, an archbishop, or a cardinal in Budapest who spent years in the American embassy there after, I think it might have been after the 1956 uprising, and it just took a long time for him to leave. It was a Catholic prelate was there.
No, I wouldn't remember that. You're far older than I am. I mean,
I read it in the history books. I read it in the history books. And it actually mentioned your art being produced at that time in the history books.
So it's not original.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Don't pick on me. We'll go so far, and then I'm going to go after you.
And then you'll strike out. But I mean, you know, Julian Assange is there, and it's not quite clear what will happen to him. And now we have Snowden, his compatriot.
Where do we, Russia? Why? What? Even if Putin is correct, is being honest with us and telling us that he has nothing to do with them, and he's really not in Russia. They haven't let him in. He's at the airport, in a room or something, waiting to move on. Why would he go to Russia?
Well,
what does it look like?
I don't know. I was sort of thinking about just in terms of airline schedules. You're sitting there in Hong Kong. You have to go from one sort of American antagonistic country to another, a country that would like nothing better than to kind of poke America in the eye. And so you have there's a number of countries around the world, but in terms of your airline schedules out of Hong Kong, where do you go? There's probably not any direct flight to Cuba or Venezuela or Ecuador.
Well, I think that's a good
probably
point.
there's no direct flight to Iran, and Iran is maybe even a little bit questionable for Snowden.
He wouldn't get out of the airport
Yeah, no,
with his computers.
there's some big question mark about landing at Tehran International Airport,
Yeah,
whatever they call it. So you think, oh, I'll go off to Russia, and then from Russia there's good flights out to Cuba, and from Cuba on to Venezuela or Ecuador, and in no time at all, they'll love me so much in America they'll invite me back.
That's not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen
because
soon.
I'm from the Vietnam War era and protests and
took a long
Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers. I'm all for that. I think that was good, but this has gone too far.
Look at Ken. If you can get the likes of Bill Ayers and Bernadette Dorn and all those weather people or weather men or whatever they call themselves, not only to not have to serve the rest of their lives in jail, but take over the education departments at a number of universities. For someone like Snowden, there's a second life here at some point. I'm sure that's what he's thinking, is that there's always, in America, there's always a second act. And so
so
I'm sure that's
maybe
what he's
we
thinking.
need more people like you and less people like Snowden.
Well, we probably do, but I'm not the one to ask.
Well, immigration bill passed today.
In the Senate.
In the Senate.
Yeah.
And when this show is seen, it'll be about 2 weeks from now. So, your opinion?
Of the bill itself?
This passing in the Senate first.
My opinion is that we don't generally have a broken immigration system. We have an unenforced immigration system. Certainly there are areas where we could improve what we have now. I think agricultural guest worker visas is entirely in order.
Isn't that part of what the
there's aspects of it. My understanding is that's right.
And isn't there more fences? What everybody wants?
Well, I'm not sure, but let me just call out positive things that could be in there. But whether or not they're in there, we ought to be doing. And one of those is agricultural guest workers. Those programs have been in place in the past and have worked well in the past. Certainly the HB1 visas, I think I have it correctly, which are for people of meritorious abilities, the computer scientists and so forth, coming in and working in the country. I think those are certainly visa programs that we ought to increase the number of visas. Every year when they open that up, they get used up and no time at all, a matter of months. As a matter of fact, I have a.
That's sad. We should not. I was going to say you can't discriminate against, but you want to know something? And I'm not saying discriminating at all, but there are a lot of people who have been waiting, who are really could be very important from economy to technology for us. I mean, we are really a country of technology. We don't want to scare people like that away.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some amazing statistics coming out of Silicon Valley of how many startups are founded by people who aren't American citizens, or brought in either for education here and able to stay, or they come in under some of these,
founder of Google, I'm sure he was an American. I'm pretty sure.
Two of them. I think one of them might not have been. But certainly, some of the people who worked on Facebook and so these are these are programs that ought to be more robust and allow more people to come in under these programs. I tend to think, however, that a program that takes individuals who have not come to this country legally and puts them, as you I think suggesting, at the head of the line. I think that's unfair. I really do
Well,
think it's unfair.
but
It's not good
isn't
for,
it?
you know,
But isn't it
this
that not
program has to
really?
work for America.
But really not. That's really not factual. The fact is that they've been here. They're saying you must pay your back taxes, which could be a great amount, and then you must wait. It's I think 10 or 12.
Ken, they've been working under the table.
10 or 12 years. Well,
They've been working under the table.
this
Ken,
might be the
with
great.
back
Then this may be the
taxes.
great way to get people out of this country that we don't want.
I don't know about
You can't
that,
say
but-
I've been here for 10 years or 15 years and I owe no taxes to you. I mean,
Look at.
there are fences they must jump over.
Yeah, they have to get trained in American civics, and now we're no longer going to have government employees do it. The ICE place is going to go out to contractors like Acorn that will teach them how to be Americans. So that's one less than positive aspects of this program.
Why would you bring? You got Bill Ayers and you got Acorn and the same 2 pages.
I'm sorry to
You
embarrass
must feel really strong, like you really.
I'm sorry to embarrass you, Ken.
No, I
stay.
happen to. I appreciate that intelligence, but come on, 13 years before they could apply for citizenship.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
It's not true?
No, they can certainly do it before that. And you know, the funny thing is,
How about the people who are here with families? Are you saying everybody should leave?
I'm saying that those people who are in the country legally should stay, and those people who aren't here legally should not stay.
So
How is that
everybody,
how is that
so
so
they're talking
extraordinary?
20 million people should just leave.
Well,
Is this what you're saying?
It seems to be growing here. I mean, I've heard 11 million. You know, back
Okay,
in back
let's
in
start with an even 10 million. You want 10 million?
back in Eisenhower administration, we had a problem with what was then a substantial number of illegal aliens in the country. You call them what you want, undocumented aliens, undocumented citizens. It's like saying a drug dealer is an undocumented pharmacist. Call him what you will. He's not supposed to be here. Those people aren't supposed to be selling drugs without a license, unlicensed drugs. They're not supposed to be here. And no matter what country they're from, they should be, and then they may need some assistance, they should go home to the country.
Well, I think that's impossible, and I think
it's far from impossible.
No.
There was literally
Look, our
federal government has.
I was on the side that if you came here illegal, that's against the law. You must leave.
Our
go
federal
and
government
come back, have a as you had mentioned, a green card or something for. You can earn it if you're here and you've been here for a period of time. You are working. You have kids in school. They know nothing. Born in America. You're going to say to those families, out, and you can't leave your kids here.
Do you know, one of the stories that we come across periodically, and we always kind of look at it and wonder about it, and it's some guy who, escaped from prison 30 years ago, and all of a sudden they'll catch him, and the tendency is to say, he hasn't caused problems in 30 years, and so should he go back to that prison sentence that he escaped from? What's your attitude about that?
Well,
is there a point where you can break the law long enough that there's just sort of a buy on it?
You're getting into this Republican thing again, all right? You'll start off on one subject, and then you will say, but don't you like puppies and babies? What's wrong with you? That's how you do it. You're very, very clever. This is a Republican thing. Look, if they came here legal or illegally, and they have kids, and the kids are in school, and they have been good people, you don't think that they should pay for having been here, then make sure that taxes are paid, maybe get a green card. If you have any offenses like robbery or you're out.
Not if we don't want this problem to come up in another 20 years, because we already tried that in the 1980s.
Oh, no, wait.
1986, we tried it, Ken.
Well,
it was done then.
What
we allowed
administration was that under?
Who cares? It was under the Reagan administration.
Reagan administration.
Okay, so now that Reagan made a mistake, let's let Obama make a mistake? What kind of logic is that,
You mean a
Ken?
Republican admitting that Reagan made a mistake?
Well, sure. Reagan made a number of mistakes. When he was governor, he passed the first no-fault divorce law in the country. When he was president, he passed an amnesty for illegal aliens. The man wasn't perfect. Who said he was? George Washington wasn't perfect. Abraham Lincoln wasn't perfect. Franklin
you
Roosevelt
know-
was, my God, far from perfect.
Well, you know what? It still
What do we
it
care?
still gets me.
It's either makes sense to do it or not do
No,
it.
it still gets me that the only way that this could pass in the Senate is if they built more fences. And I'm thinking to myself, here in China and other countries, they literally build fences to keep their people in. We have to build fences to keep people out. And
Let's not get too mystical about it. You know what? You know who has a, you know who has another,
you know, that's
you know who has
the
another
truth,
southern border
though,
problem?
But that's the truth.
No. You know who has another southern border problem with immigrants coming across? You want to know what other nation has it?
Who?
Mexico. Mexico has a lot of Central Americans that come in through its southern border. And you know what it does? It puts them in camps. And whether or not they've been there 1 year, 5 year, or 10 minutes, it puts them in camps and deports them right away. Mexico's illegal alien problem is dealt with very differently and much more directly and much more harshly than Mexico's rhetoric would suggest the United States is allowed to do. You know, the fact is the core function of the federal government is to protect our borders. Now, protecting our borders doesn't mean we have to have to wait for a Canadian army to invade South Dakota. That's not a problem. Where they are falling off is that we have a number of people who are not American citizens coming into the country. Now, you can only do so much in trying to put fences up and so forth before one becomes too expensive and two becomes obnoxious.
Well, that's what passed
But-
today.
but you want-
The immigration bill has more. Part of it has more money to build more fences. And by the way, I believe Kelly Ayotte voted for it.
Who cares? You know,
So
that's Kelly's.
this is one of your Republican friends.
That's Kelly's issue. She'll explain. Kelly Ayotte will explain Kelly Ayotte. What I'm trying to reach is an understanding that we had back in 1986 when I was a young attorney working at a computer company in their law department, and the 1986 amnesty bill passed. And what we were told then is we're going to secure the borders and we're going to police employers so that they do not hire illegal aliens. That's what we came up with. You probably heard the term, these I-94 forms.
But since Reagan couldn't do it, and Obama is trying, and it passed by a majority in the Senate, of course, Boehner, the House. Boehner says,
you're saying we should adopt a failed program because it failed under Republicans, so let's now have it fail under a Democrat?
It's not the same. You're acting as if this is under the very same bill.
Program.
It's not. Well, it's amnesty, not as it was before. It's completely different.
No, it is.
This means that you have to be registered.
There's five times the number of illegal aliens that we're going to give amnesty to.
Why didn't the people coming into this country under Reagan and since Reagan, and this goes Clinton and Democrats in between, why haven't they tried to get them to at least register people?
What's the
Why?
question?
Meaning you catch somebody, all right, illegally in this country, if you're going to let him, and you're a lawyer, I heard that if they're arrested for something and they post a bail, I think they can post a bail, and they obviously are out free. Of course, they're not going to go to that court date because they could be grabbed.
Are you talking about Barack Obama's uncle that lives in Framingham that was arrested and convicted for driving under the influence and isn't deported, even though he's here illegally? Or are you talking about his aunt who lives in South Boston who's engaged in welfare fraud, but she's still here? You know, what it is a system out of control because you're just not enforcing laws.
How do you get from what we're talking about over to relatives of the president?
Because we're talking about illegal aliens, and his relatives are illegal aliens.
Right over. You guys can't admit that Obama has done something right. Name one thing that he's done right. Can you? Can you say there's one thing?
A couple of days ago, you left the country to go to Africa. I thought that was pretty good.
He's not here right now. Awful. That's funny, but it's awful.
That was pretty good.
Also, the Supreme Court, let's move on to another subject. The Supreme Court, you're the lawyer. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I believe this was a California ruling. That's how it got to the Supreme Court. It shot down. No, wait a minute. Wasn't this the House of Representatives, or we passed a bill of what marriage is marriage.
You know what most people care about? They look at those issues and they watch the celebration of one side or another because social agenda is being decided by courts. Most people are sitting there trying in their lives to make sure their kids get a good education and that they have secure housing, and they're trying to figure out medical costs and how they can have insurance that is good for them, and not government finance insurance is bad for them.
That sounds
those
good,
are
but
the
can
issues.
we get back
those are
to
the issues
can we
that
get
care
back
of
to
them.
what the Supreme Court did? What did they do exactly? You're the lawyer.
As I understand it, what they did was, in both cases, and I haven't really followed them because they're not a central issue to me, but they applied federalism to those cases. What they said, in one case, in the case of DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act,
Yes.
they basically said if a state defines a relationship as a marriage, then it is, as I understand it, the role of the federal government to apply that definition. That's federalism. I'm a supporter of federalism. I think we all should be, and because it is one of the checks
So
and
you're
balances
for
that was
the
put
gay
in by, what did you
marriage?
call them, a legal alien? Would you call them the framers in an earlier show? I can't remember. We won't go there.
What do you mean I called them illegal aliens?
You called them, I don't know, something, aliens or something.
I beg your pardon.
But that's, this idea of federalism is very, very important, and I'm a supporter of that. My understanding of the California case, it was a standing issue. It was, in order to go to court, in order to go to court.
The gay people, the married gay people, are everybody celebrating? What are they celebrating? What should? Is there any
I don't know. They
reason
didn't
why?
they didn't invite me to the party.
Did they win any? Did they win anything? You're the lawyer. I'm not.
I know. All I know is that the case as decided by the Supreme Court and explained to me was a case of who has standing to bring a case. And in that situation, California had passed a proposition that was, and the people who supporting the proposition wanted to reverse some sort of a trial court judgment against the proposition or something.
I wish I had the quotes. You brought quotes in. I wish I had the quotes of what some of the Republicans said today. Our country is falling apart. The real, truly, this is tearing the American people. Nobody really wants it. This has been pushed upon us.
We ought to get them in here, Ken, to explain themselves, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, okay. So that's his Republican friends. We're back down to about 3 or 4 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about what you're going to do. You're going to run for Congress, and I'm going to talk about what we're going to do. I'm going to have one show where I'm going to interview you on the subject. Then Annie Custer will be here. I will interview her.
Have you invited her?
No, I haven't, but I will. So this will be a separate show between you, will be alone, and her, and then maybe if she would like to get together with you, which I don't think that will happen, but you are running for Annie Custer's seat, correct?
Well, no, it's the state of New Hampshire's seat for the 2nd Congressional District. Yes.
Seat could be acceptable, maybe, or all right, okay. So you wish to go to Congress.
Yeah, and we can talk about it in depth. I mean, it's very difficult in the few minutes we have left to fully explain to folks the great concern many of us have over the fiscal direction this country's taken. We have a government deficit, a federal government deficit that at this point is 105% of our annual gross domestic product. I mean, it's just
Winnie, you've announced that you're running.
Well, so no, I
have
haven't formally announced, but we've put in place a committee. We have a website. We're talking to folks about it. At some point, I anticipate formally announcing, but we want to make sure the support is out there. We want to make sure that the issues that concern us, these issues of fiscal responsibility, these issues of bringing back jobs to New Hampshire, these issues of reapplying the checks and balances in government. We've always talked about, and again, this gets a little bit too far for the few minutes we have here, we've always talked about horizontal checks and balances. That's what we learned in school. you know, judiciary, legislative, executive, they're all a check on each other.
Okay.
But we also have vertical checks and balances between the federal government and state.
So you-
and that's what I want to talk to the people about.
We will do that. So I want to make it really clear that my partner here is a Republican, and I am a Democrat. I will vote, and I will help Annie Custer. Nothing against my Republican friend here, and we have made an agreement that every time this is brought up, I will mention Annie Custer, and she will, I believe, be running again. I take it she will be.
I would assume so, sure.
Okay, this show is a half hour. We may be doing half-hour shows for the summer, possibly, because we can do a couple in a few days. So would you like to give your website again?
Sure, absolutely. The website is o'brienforcongress.com, and the email address is o'brienforcongress@gmail.com. And you can reach me at 620-8710, and I look forward to talking to all of you through the show and also, out and about, and come up and talk with me.
And we are in 5 cities.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
you were
we're
in
in-
Nashua. I think it's Derry, Londonderry, Claremont, Amherst, and do I have them all?
There was one more,
And
a new one we got.
recently.
All right, well,
and now we have to put up with our producer coming in here and saying, "Remember it next time, guys."
that's right, and he will do that. We should write it down. So if we forgot the city or town that you're from, just please let us know. We will mention it. Well, my name is Ken Gidge, and you can get me on Facebook. You're on Facebook?
I am, just under my name, William O'Brien.
All right, under Ken Gidge. Befriend us. Tell us what you think. That would be very helpful. I also have a website called Gidge World. It's a website. It's an art website. You can get me also at kgidge@aol.com. You gave your...
Yeah, o'brienforcongress.com.
And a telephone number for myself is area code 603-864-9332, and we'll see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Yep.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.